Let's make some cookies.
Welcome back, guys. Sorry for the slightly creepy intro, but everyone in the house is sleeping right now, so I gotta be quiet. Today, I'm gonna be showing you how to make an Italian ricotta cookie. And I know what you're thinking. Ricotta cheese in a cookie, there's no way. You gotta trust me on this. These things slap. I'm talking perfect after a big heavy dinner because they're so light and fluffy, surprisingly sweet, and just take my word for it, you're gonna love them. Before I get into the recipe, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit that bell if you want a notification when a new video drops. Let's get to cooking. The first thing we need to do to get these ricotta cookies started is to grab a big bowl. The biggest one you have, in fact, because this is actually a surprisingly large amount of cookie dough when it's all said and done. And I'm going to show you my mistake so that you can avoid doing the same thing that I did. The first thing you should do, that I did not do, is add 2 sticks of softened butter along with 2 cups of granulated white sugar to your bowl and then beat them together until they're homogenized. I skipped this step and mixed things together all at once, and it became very, very difficult. I could not get the chunks of butter broken down correctly, and there was large chunks of butter everywhere, and I spent so long using my hands to try to mush them down that it was just ridiculous. So just skip my mistake, cream the sugar and the butter together first. I don't think what I did negatively affected the final cookies because everyone at work still loved them, including myself, but it did make the prep really, really annoying. So do yourself a favor and beat the butter and sugar first. After the butter and sugar is done, we can add the rest of the wet ingredients, which will include 2 whole eggs, 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract, and 2 cups or 496 grams of whole milk ricotta cheese. Mix these all together with your butter and sugar mixture until it is well combined, and then we can move on to the dry ingredients. Friendly reminder that this is a doubled serving, so exact measurements for a single batch is going to be available in the description. I made a double, and it was a lot of cookies. They're good, just didn't want that many. Moving on to our dry ingredients, we need to add 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a pinch of salt. Mix everything together until evenly combined and no visible flour is left. Now, please listen up. This dough is sticky. The stickiest I've ever worked with. I tried 3 different batches of these cookies to see if chilling the dough would help at all, and I've concluded that chilling the dough makes it significantly easier to work with. And the cookies themselves held their shape together much better and didn't flatten out so much. So my recommendation is to chill this dough for 1 hour after mixing it together. After chilling your dough, we're going to get ourselves a couple of parchment-lined baking sheets and start rolling this dough into balls. Take portions of your dough that are about 2 tablespoons in size and roll them between your palms until a rough ball is formed. Then we can pop them onto the baking sheets. Again, this dough is sticky yet somehow fragile at the same time, so you'll need to use a little bit of gradual pressure along with some patience in order to get them to actually look the right way. If you can't fit all of your dough onto your first batch in the oven, place your dough back into the fridge so it doesn't warm up and get tough to work with again. Once your baking sheets are lined with dough, we can pop them into a 350F or 180C preheated oven for 15 minutes. While these are in the oven, we can quickly make our icing. And this was shockingly easy. I've never done this before, but it's like really easy. All you need is 3/4 cup of powdered sugar in a bowl, and to that add 3 teaspoons of milk of your choice and just whisk it with a fork until it's combined. Basically, a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar for 1 teaspoon of milk. So if you're making a smaller batch or a larger batch, adjust accordingly. After our cookies have finished baking, we need to remove them from the oven and let them cool completely to room temperature. Otherwise, the icing is going to fall right off and get melty and kind of look inappropriate. So just cool your cookies. In order to ice these little guys up, we need to be a little careful because they are still pretty fragile, even after all the work we did. So what I did is place a fork on the bottom of your icing bowl, then place your cookie into the icing, and then using the fork, lift it back out. If you don't have something to lift them out, they will absolutely fall apart in the icing, and I discovered that the hard way, and it is very, very frustrating. Lastly, an optional step is to put some sprinkles onto the wet icing, which I'm going for just because it's the holidays and a little pop of color on these because they're kind of plain looking. Lastly, but certainly not least, my favorite part, let's do a taste test.
Okay,
So, Italian ricotta cookies. These were more of a challenge than I expected them to be. I had a lot of trouble finding a consistent recipe. Usually when I find like a cookie recipe or something like that, I kind of look for a few different options, and usually they all kind of say the same thing. Usually they're identical recipes actually. And it kind of makes it, you know, a no-brainer how to make it. With these, I either couldn't find definitive baking ingredients or making ingredients, or they varied so much that I didn't really know what to do. So, definitely made a few mistakes, I think. First and foremost, the butter and the sugar should have been creamed together first before I did anything else, because that made making an actual dough so much more challenging than it probably would have been if I just did that first. Aside from that, I'm not too sure. If you notice something that I did wrong, let me know. But let's at least give it a try and see if they taste good at the very least. First thing I'm noticing, they're very light. They're like almost like a flaky biscuit texture level, which I was not expecting. And they're not overly sweet. I actually think that these are, like if you're gonna have a really big, heavy dinner meal, these are a perfect dessert afterwards, because if you're already feeling pretty sick to your stomach from eating too much, these are really light. Like, you know, it's not like a big fudgy cake or something that's gonna make you feel terrible. They're like really not the texture I was expecting. They're not overly sweet either. It's like a really comforting level of sweet. I actually think this is like cup of coffee in hand, one of these, I'll be in heaven. After a nice heavy dinner, that would be like the best way to end the night, I think. Like they are very good. Despite maybe them not looking how I expected them to look or coming out exactly how I wanted them to, they're pretty dang good, honestly. I'm not really mad about it. Yeah, I mean, I'd make them again. I think there's probably some tweaks in there that would make them a little better, but overall, they're not bad. I'd give them like a solid 7 out of 10. Definitely room for improvement though. So if you notice something that you think I should do differently, let me know. I appreciate the help in the comments, and it helps me be a better chef and baker. That is pretty much all I got for this video here. If you liked it, please leave a subscribe and leave a like. It helps the channel a ton. It would mean a lot to me, and I'd really appreciate it. And other than that, I have more cookies coming out. I'm literally gonna go make a different recipe right now. So look forward to more videos in the next week or so, and thank you again for joining me. I'll see you on the next one. Peace!